and how are you today? Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Life and Legacy, a moment with Dr. Grace. It's indeed a privilege to be here with you once more. This evening, we continue to grapple with this whole issue that is facing us, regarding the pandemic and COVID-19. I'm not sure when we will be able to stop talking about this monster. But interestingly, in case you have not picked up on it, you would have realized that for the past two episodes of Let's Talk Life and Legacy, a moment with Dr. Grace, we have been focusing on um, co-host and host in terms of the contribution, the significant contributions that we have been making to society, especially during this pandemic. Everybody needs an opportunity to pivot and to bounce back. Everybody needs a chance to understand what's their reality and how they can work through this. And this afternoon, we are going to be having an opportunity to talk with Chauna-Kaye. We had they drilled me in the first instance about my contribution as it relates to grief and bereavement and about the book Grieve If You Must. And then we drilled Dr. Bell, who is the expert on mental health issues. And she zeroed in last time on the contents that she has actually put together as a direct response to issues that are affecting children and childhood mental health issues. So we had those conversations. This week, Mrs. Chauna-Kaye Pottinger, our co-host, will share with us her contribution in areas of building a high-performance workplace through strong and cohesive teams and relationships. As we tackle some of these issues that are being faced within the workplace and how leaders and employers can work together to build a work culture that is high and engaging and less toxic. So we want to look at more high performance within the workplace. So stay with us as our co-host, Mrs. Chauna-Kaye Pottinger, help us to understand more deeply the discipline of talent optimization, its impact and influence on the workplace culture. And we are operating under the theme how to build a high performance team managing people to performance. So this is Let's Talk Life and Legacy, a moment with Dr. Grace. I'm your host, Dr. Grace. Hey, I haven't forgotten you. No, I have not. I am so pleased to have you here this afternoon. So many of you want to thank you for your faithful support. You have stopped by every episode to be informed, to be motivated, and to be inspired to live out the best life and to leave a legacy that will outlast you. It's always a pleasure being here with you and in your company. So please, if you haven't yet noticed, we value you, we appreciate you, we care about you, and it is now time for you to share this wonderful experience with somebody, a friend, a family, who you know can benefit from the conversation. So subscribe to our Facebook page, Facing Life, Let's Talk Life and Legacy, and our YouTube page, Facing Life. And I think it is time you are burning up on the inside to see our own Dr. Bell and Chauna-Kaye, Mrs. Pottinger and Dr. Bell. Where are you? Come and let us know.
We are right here.
You're right here. Come and tell us what's been on your mind since our last link up.
I am so interested in what Chauna-Kaye is going to present this evening. So it was really on my mind all over these 2 weeks. Seriously. And I hope that in her presentation, she addressed this issue too of what I learned. I think two years ago, I learned the term presenteeism. And
Mm.
so, yes, that workers were practicing what they call presenteeism. So I want that to be fleshed out in terms of optimizing and creating engaged employees in the workplace. And I'm sure I'm going to put some kind of psychological spin to it as we explore the topic. So
Well,
that's what I find.
I'm gonna cut in before Shauna speaks because since we had the conversation that it's her time, the only thing that has been coming to my mind is leading from within.
Mm.
That's what's been on my mind, and I want to see how she fleshed that out also as she ties into this whole talent optimization.
Yeah.
So really,
Yeah, this is going to be an excellent conversation that we'll have, ladies, because I think across spectrums and across barriers and boundaries, we all can relate to the topic tonight because we've all worked in teams. And one of the goals of organization really centers around leadership. And whether we want to be a leader or not, we all lead in some way, shape, or form, you know. So I'm excited about the conversation. If you're asking me how my week went, though, I just want to say pray for the lady. I have children who are on summer vacation. I feel like I'm trying to fill an abyss in keeping them entertained and engaged in activities and so on. And for the most part, I'm not winning this battle of trying to keep them keep them entertained. They will have some of the most active days, but you would think that tomorrow they'll say, okay, I had my fill of stuff to do. The day after that, they're coming back to you to ask you, what's next? Mommy, what's next? They're looking at you like, what are we going to do next? And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm tired. Can I just get a breather? You know, so that's been my week. I'm trying to teach these children how to you know, exercise gratitude and contentment. Yeah.
wow,
That's great. Great. I love that.
And I'm sure our listeners this afternoon could benefit from even that little snippet because they too have their own challenges while they are dealing with the issues on the workplace. They still have to be treating with the children. So let's see what this talent optimization thing is all about and how we can benefit from it. We are praying, Shauna. We are praying for you.
Thank you.
Now, tell us as we move into the topic, what is this thing called talent optimization and why should we be interested in a subject like this?
Yeah, you know, this is a new and emerging discipline by name, but not by nature, right? Since the very beginning, business people have been trying to come up with different ways of labeling it. But talent optimization really is a strategy and a discipline that is centered around studying, analyzing, and understanding people. And after you would have done that, the knowledge and expertise and information that you would have gotten from that, you will then use to inspire them towards greatness. And so one of the things that we say is that whether explicitly or implicitly, all organizations have business strategies that they're pursuing. You go into business because you want to achieve some amount of business result. For the most part, that one glue, or what I call that uniting force that connects whatever result you're looking forward to as an organization with the strategy that you're pursuing, is people. And if you do not have an intentional strategy around how you are going to attract and retain people or inspire them so that they remain engaged in the process and want to come to work every single day, or if you don't have a strategy around how you're going to diagnose certain people problems that you may be having in the organization, or a strategy around designing teams that are strong and cohesive, then you're going to run into some problems. And I can guarantee you that you may not necessarily achieve those results that you set out to achieve. And so talent optimization is what really focuses in on those people factors, hiring the right people, inspiring them to perform, diagnosing if you have any issues in terms of their, engagement, their level of engagement, you measure that, and then also designing strong teams. That's what talent optimization is all about.
Wow, 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 wow. I got it. Because you know what? I always say that we really should create the and retain the best and the brightest in
Yes.
our organizations. I
Mhm.
always say that. And many times what I see happening is that organizations do not put things in place. They don't do the analysis to retain the best and the brightest. I don't know if you know that I also have a background in human resource management, apart from
Okay.
also being a psychologist. And I would like to find out what inspired you to, go into this field.
Well, Dr. Bell, I started out very early. I think I got my very first job at the age of 17. That was my first job. And I'm a very observant person, but beyond my curious mind in terms of, what makes people tick and so on, I worked for the past, I'd say 7 years in the role as a risk manager. That entails a lot, dealing with a lot of interpersonal conflicts and lawsuits related to wrongful termination and other factors that we consider to be preventable factors. I've seen the effects and impact that just one bad hire can have on an organization, some quantifiable and some not. For instance, when you make one bad hire, you pay a whole lot of money to move people across states, across barriers and boundaries. You bring them into your organization. Beyond what it costs you financially, when they come with a toxic behavioral pattern and they introduce that into your system, sometimes it takes a very long time for you to purge the system of that kind of thing. So I've seen what it costs organizations from my personal and professional experience to have just one bad hire. And also, at the end of the day, we spend 86% of our waking moments in the workplace. And so having had those experiences and that exposure, I am more wanting now to influence that in a way that's positive. And so one of the things that we always coin in the practice is that we are trying to change the world one workplace at a time, considering that 86% of people work there. So, we believe that if you create a better workforce, you can create a better world. So that's what's drawn me to it.
Wow.
Yep.
Dr. Grace, unmute.
I apologize. I had my mic muted and was excited about sharing. A long time ago, in business and management, and one of the things that is suggested is that incompetence is the highest cost in the workplace, to the organization. And nowadays, you're looking at the transition from what's happening now in terms of persons and their skill set and being who they are. And I'm learning that the authenticity is the new currency. Looking at that, Shauna, what are some of the things that are challenging our employers at this time? What are some of the things they can anticipate, and how can Pottinger and Associate help them manage these challenges? Because challenges are inevitable, they are there. How you see yourself making a contribution? I heard you say transforming or changing one company, one organization at a
At
time.
that
Tell us
time.
about that.
Yeah, really changing the world one workplace at a time is our mission. That's a very loaded question, and I appreciate it. The truth is, there are significant, the world of work did not need COVID-19 to make their task that much more difficult. But even prior to COVID-19, organizations faced a myriad of challenges centered around just attracting top talent. Why is this so? Because the world is moving in a direction now where people are moving towards a more gig-like mindset. What do I mean by that?
Mm.
Some of the best talents that an organization could ever have, they're going into certain roles where they can contribute to a much greater and wider space. And so COVID-19, I think, has created, Dr. Bell, what I consider to be a aha moment, because
Mm.
in a lot of cases, people have been forced to be creative around, how to survive the economic climate and all of these things. Some of them are going into their own businesses and so on. And so what organizations are facing right now is what I coin, or a term or a phrase that I coin, as the turnover tsunami. Recent research data has proven that a lot of organizations have not been able to attract the people that they want to come into their organization. Because, for instance, I've gone through COVID, and I've recognized that there's a way for me to sit at home and make sometimes even twice the amount of money just by being an influencer, or just by being an excellent writer. I can blog, I can do all these things. And so organizations across the globe are now being challenged to be creative. They're being challenged to be flexible, to be innovative and agile when it comes on to what is required at work, just so that they're able to retain the best in their organizations. And so what Pottingers and Associates do in terms of helping them with that is that we help from the very perspective of, walking into a dark room and peeling those curtains back as you prospect an employee and you want to bring them into your culture. We're able to give you those insights that can help you to make the right decision in terms of who to hire, what kind of packages you can offer them so that you can get them to work in your company and as part of your team.
Wow, Chauna-Kaye, very, very interesting. I must pause here though to congratulate you as a very young, bright, enterprising young woman with such a outstanding organization, Pottinger and Associates. I congratulate you on this milestone as such a young person. I have heard you and would like to say or to ask, I miss, what are some of the tools that you would, for example, use to ensure that effective teams are assembled and that you're hiring the right person? Because one of the things that I know for sure is that oftentimes employees do not do that cost benefit analysis in terms of what happens when you do not hire effectively. So what are some of the tools that you use to mitigate these errors?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking that. Yeah, the primary tool that we have is a tool that's over, I'd say, 60 years old, called the PI behavioral assessment. And this tool basically measures the key factors or motivational factors that drive the person, the prospective employee. So basically, we have a behavioral assessment. This will tell us what are the observable behaviors that we can look forward to if we should hire this person into the organization. And then from there, you can know whether or not this is something that is the right fit based on the job that you are hiring them for. And then we also offer you assessments that are called job assessments. So you can basically compare whether or not the person who is being hired is actually a match or a fit behaviorally for the role for which they're being hired. And if there are some gaps, you will know exactly what those are. And so if coaching will be necessary, you can apply that, some professional development, whatever it is that's needed, you can then manage that person in those given areas for them to build them up. So you can also identify some blind spots, potential blind spots for that employee, so that as they're coming in, you can give them the gift of awareness to say, hey, we think you're going to be an excellent fit for this job, but here are some things that I think you need to look out for. Because, Dr. Bell, we have this concept that we use in our workshops. And it's something that I learned recently from one of our CEOs and mentors called Mike Zani. He talks about this, what's on the back of your t-shirt, right? Or what's on the back of my t-shirt, so that leaders and team members should be open to receiving feedback about those things in their behaviors that they can see. Because, the front of your t-shirt is something that's always there. You're always going to be able to see, to get a lot of good feedback. People will commend you and compliment you on what's on the front of your t-shirt. But sometimes the things that are at the back of our t-shirts, they're impacting and affecting the way we are perceived. They're impacting and affecting the promotions that we could possibly have been getting. They're impacting and affecting the way that we're able to sell a message to our employees and those who directly reports to us. And so it's very important for that gift of awareness to be there to say, hey, what's on the back of my t-shirt? What is it that I'm doing that I don't know that I'm doing that's really impacting my messaging as a leader, my influence as a leader, or a teammate, and so on. And so these assessment tools brings that to the table. They allow you to be self-aware, and so you can manage yourself and others accordingly.
Wow. Very, very interesting. And I think just listening to you, there's a science that you're talking about to employing the right fit. That's what I heard from your discourse a while ago. Now, how does this differ from traditional hiring process? In terms of, the different employees that you would have, employers that you would have?
Yeah, yes, to be honest with you, when an organization is looking to hire somebody, in many cases, they're riding blind. Why do I say that? When we look at a prospective employee that's coming into an organization, there are three primary elements that we could sum that individual up in, right? The first one has to do with their head. And this has to do with their cognitive ability to assimilate and absorb the new information that will be coming their way as they seek to build the skills and the competencies necessary for this organization to thrive and for them to thrive in their role, right? So that's a cognitive, right? But then you also have the heart. And this has to do with the behavioral factors that they bring to the job. And then finally, we have what we call the briefcase. And the briefcase has to do with their professional experience and their expertise and educational background. The truth of the matter is, a lot of organizations over-rely on the briefcase element when they're looking to hire a person, neglecting completely that the person brings their entire self to the organization.
I love that.
Cognitive abilities. And so sometimes we miss out on some good hires. A person, there really is not much that can be said on a resume about a person who has grit or resilience and the ability to bounce back and how they relate to risks and so on. And so what this assessment tool does, it peels the curtain back, it turns on the lights, and it gives you that information so that you can have a deeper understanding and insight into what's in this person's heart and their heads.
Wow. I love that. Oh my.
Yep.
You are just blowing up this place, man. We need to call the fire engine. I remember, and it's been a while back, the first opportunity I had to be interviewed after I finished my master's degree. I went in, the folks, they needed 3 individuals. And so the boss got one, and two of the workers, um, one of the workers got two interests, another one got one, and I was among the one that invited 2 persons to apply for the job. So there were 4 places for 4 persons for 3 positions. You're talking about persons in terms of entering and hiring blindly. And what actually happened is that the 3 persons went ahead of me. They were hired on the spot. And when I got to them, they would do anything that they could, but they couldn't because they locked themselves in and beg, would you want to stay? Could we find another place for you in another state or whatever? Because you are the ideal person. I was the ideal person, but there was no space there for me because they had already gone ahead and hired the individuals. Now, Shauna, tell me about that which is happening. You mentioned something about fitting in the right place. We hear in this circle again about persons, you're on the bus, you're in your right seat, or the round peg in the square hole. What is it that our employers, what is it that the organizations can do to ensure that they are fostering the kind of development and also build high performance culture within their organization? Tell us, what does a high performance team also look like? What does that environment look like and possibly sound like when you have the right persons in the on the team and empowering them to have to give you the best?
Hey, Dr. Grace, I feel like you lumped 2 questions into one there. So let me see
Yes,
if I
I
can
did.
let me, let me see if I can just pick it apart and break it down, Sesame Street style.
Yes, that's all right.
You know, in our workshops, we have this thing that we say that a culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Oops.
So basically, the idea is if you have a toxic workforce culture, if there's a toxic environment, regardless of the strategy that you are pursuing, you're going to fail because toxic environments only breed toxicity.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in order for an organization to thrive and to build the right kinds of culture, they have to first understand and recognize, what strategy am I looking forward to pursue? What specific business result do I need to come as a result of the actions that I'm taking? So we basically break down the work to be done in different environments within 4 categories. The first one being innovation and agility. And this is when an organization is pursuing just growth and development. And so they will need some people who are innovative, agile, creative, who are risk takers, people who are very strong on their and entrepreneurial in their style, in their behavioral style, right? Whereas now, where you have a results and discipline team or strategy, these individuals tend to be a little bit more competitive in their performance. They're focused on hitting goals and targets and performance metrics and just producing. There are other environments, and as I said, you know, everything has to come down to the strategic context within which you're operating, and then you create a culture that will be able to support that strategy. So for teamwork and employee experience, this is an organization that's pursuing a strategy where, listen, we believe that we get the very best results as we keep our people and our team happy. And so those individuals will pursue more of the cultivating side of things. Speaking to a little bit of what you talked about earlier in terms of development, they invest in their employees, they send them back to school to study and so on. And they have like employee of the month, and you know, they're big on an employee engagement. They consider themselves successful if their employees are happy and fully engaged. But then there's another one, and it has to do with process and precision. People who work in the scientific field and so on, they prefer to have a little bit more of a predictable work style where they come in, there's just a specific methodology to what they do, and they're all about predictability and efficiency. Whichever one of these strategies that we are pursuing as leaders, the leader has to embody the behaviors and the actions that will signal that, hey, look, here I am. I'm modeling the things that I need to see happening in this organization, first of all. And second of all, they have to capitalize on every opportunity to share, hey, this is our culture here. I'll give an example. I remember I went to this workshop or this conference, and one of the CEOs that presented, he said that the organization that he runs embrace a culture of love. And what does that mean? It means that everyone, if you're seeing somebody for the first time for that day, you're going to smile first, right? You give them a smile, and then you ask them how they're doing. Now, whether this is somebody at a lower level or a high level, this is one of the things that he considers to be a very important gesture for everyone on the team to embody and to practice. Now, I don't know if everybody practiced it, but it really left an impression on my mind that we would be better served as organizations if we're able to clearly articulate what the culture of the organization is to people. And then you have to magnify. When you see people who are embodying and are modeling the principles, take opportunities to identify that they're doing so, and then credit them. Give them the credit so others can see in full view of everybody else that, listen, this is what we want to see more of. And guess what? That's how you influence, that's how you impact a high performance culture. But remember, your culture should always be driven by the strategy that you are pursuing, whichever one of the items that I referred to just now.
So Chauna-Kaye, I hear a lot about high performance employees, high performance team, and you have outlined to us that making sure that you are hiring the right person and ensure that once the right person is hired, that you actually retain the person with these various strategies. But what if the organization is set already, but on the team we have toxic individuals, a toxic team that is operating? How do we get them from toxicity to high performance?
I think the first thing to do is to understand and know what a toxic team looks like, right? And then you manage away from it. So basically, the first thing that the first hallmark of a toxic team is a lack of trust and vulnerability. If people don't feel free to say, I don't know how to do this, or if they cannot express, or what we call activate the obligation to dissent. This is a military term that is coined where a person is free and open to disagree with something that the leader of the team may be saying, or somebody who's leading out may be saying, to say, listen, I do not agree. If people are not free to be vulnerable, and if they're not free to be able to express these things, this can have a devastating impact on outcomes. One example I've heard of where the CEO got some feedback from their team. And as he was, he got the feedback, we have these surveys that we do. I have one that's called an employee engagement survey, but you have one where they do a 360-degree survey. Dr. Bell, I think you may be familiar with it.
Yes, I am.
You get to hear from those who are beside you, above you, and below you to know, what do they really think about my leadership style? Now, this guy actually got his report, looked at it, shut it up, put it in his drawer, and didn't touch it after that. The consultant shared with me that when he went back to them and to him and asked him, say, hey, the man literally said to him, he's not going to do anything about it. He was like, listen, just go ahead and share it. What do you have to lose? Well, when he sat at the desk, and as the other members around the table attempted to, well, we're supposed to be giving feedback, he took up the notes and said, here it says that I don't take feedback. I think I take feedback. What do you guys think? Right? And everybody around the table was quiet because, of course, they're afraid to give feedback. And this is one of the hallmarks of a toxic team. When the when the members on the team recognized what was happening, of course, they shut down and they realized that, listen, if you don't want to admit it, we're not going to say anything. The long and short of it is that the company failed some 6 months in, and the people considered it to be a failure of the strategy. It was devastating to the economy because he was providing thousands of jobs, but nobody pointed to the fact that this guy was just not a person that fostered a culture that, you know, allowed for vulnerability, allowed for people to give feedback and honesty. And that's one of the things that you can take to know that you're being led by a toxic person. If or there's toxicity on a team, if people aren't allowed to openly share on that team. The next thing is the fear of conflict. There's some organizations that look at conflict as a bad thing. But if there is trust and there is conflict, then the conflict will be pursuing some kind of truth. So I may not agree with you, Dr. Grace. You may not agree with me, but after we've had a conversation and we've allowed this conflict to take its course in a very respectful way, of course, then we can come to some kind of a solution where at the end of the day, you can secure my commitment, which is the other area. Because if it goes the other way, then there's no way for you to get my buy-in into the idea. I may go along with it, but I may not give 100% support based on the things that the way that you went about it. So the fear of conflict, not being able to secure commitment by allowing people to weigh in so they can buy in, and then the failure to hold, this is a big one, Dr. Bell, the failure to hold people behaviorally accountable. There are a lot of times when we look at a person's behavior and we're okay with it, even though it's toxic for the team, but the person is producing results. I can guarantee you that you're going to lose many great people from your team if you don't hold people behaviorally accountable. And so those are some of the things that contribute to the toxicity of the team. And the final one really comes down to when every person working on the team is working towards a selfish goal rather than the good of the team. So the best way for you to know that you're not toxic is not to practice any of these things, but that you have an open environment where people can feel that they can trust and be openly be able to openly disagree, so that they can arrive at some kind of a consensus at the end of the day that they can move forward. And as I said, let them weigh in so that they can buy in.
Thank you for that. I know I'm a leader myself, and so I need to recognize even my own behavior so that I'm leading to high performance.
I really value and appreciate this conversation this evening, Chauna-Kaye, and what you have brought to the forefront, because so many institutions are suffering because they keep shuffling rather than training and empowering, because some of the persons are untrainable. And the reason I put a little twist to earlier when I shared about my experience, it doesn't matter what kind of system you have in place. If you do not have the right people, it is useless. So talent optimization, you can only optimize a talent when you have an existing talent. Because you optimize something that exists. I think it was Ford who, when I think it was doing some situation where he was losing and he was about to close his business, And when he realized what was happening, he said, take my machines, take my buildings, but give me my people and I'll
Yes.
build you back.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about that, because the buildings and the structures, that's not the organization.
No, it's not.
Yeah, the leading from within, the talent optimization. Give me a little bit more on what really can be done to save some of these organizations that are faced with impending doom because of the quality of the people that they have.
Yeah, people are not disposable plates. All human beings have drives. They have things that motivate them, and they have things that they aspire towards. And if, as an organization, you are not interested in valuing them for that, then they are going to grow frustrated and they are going to leave, or they will stay in the seat and not produce. And you'll pay them every single month
That
for just doing bare
presentism that we
minimum.
talked about.
That's presenteeism. That's
Yeah.
presenteeism. And so, as an organization, if you invest in people, you will never lose. I'm not going to say, I think that's right there is the most major of points. But where talent optimization comes in is that it forces you to practice the discipline of not just attracting top talent, but having an important strategy in place that's centered around developing those individuals so that they will remain inspired, they will remain challenged, and they will want to stay with you. And that way you would have secured what we call that discretionary value, Dr. Bell. And that's the difference between my showing up with my purse. We talk about those actively disengaged workers. Like I know a few of them. You show up to work, you put your purse on your desk. Well, first of all, you show up late to work, right? You leave your purse on your desk, and then you go to the cafeteria or the lunchroom, and you start putting your coffee on, or you try to get some coffee. And before you get to your desk, you stop and talk to at least 15 people. And then you get to your desk and you sit down and you make about 4 phone calls to tell everybody about what's happening. Halfway through the day, you would not have achieved anything at all when it comes on to work. And employers, this is what I'll tell you. Those are the people that are showing up to work every single day. If you would not have created an opportunity for these individuals to give, they want to have a psychological commitment to the overall success of your organization. They want to come to work every single day. And so they show up looking forward to doing that. And when they do so, guess what? You are going to get everything out of them, and your organization will get those returns in terms of the benefits and all that you would have invested in them.
Wow. Wow. I want to engage Pottinger and Associates.
Yes, we're ready. We're ready
I
whenever you
want
are.
to engage you to help to optimize my organization so that I have committed workers, employees.
Yes, we have the goods, Dr. Bell. We have the goods.
I am convinced. I am convinced.
Wow.
Trust me with that one. I am convinced.
It's really needed. And when I grow up, Dr. Bell, I'd like to be like you so I could hire. What another point that came over forcefully to me is that what Pottinger and Associates, what you're doing with this talent optimization process concept, or is that you treat with people and their relevance and how they fit in your organization before they enter the organization.
Yes.
And you support them. There's a strategic alignment
Yes.
of their talents, their gifts, to the objectives and the goal of the organization. So there's a win-win, and you track them throughout. So
Yes.
at every point, they are aware of where they are and how they fit within the culture of the organization. Am I correct?
Yes, that is correct. There are multiple fronts on which it can help, whether that be in terms of job fit, it helps with that. But then, did you know that one of the top of all the reasons that people leave a job, the number one reason is actually a bad manager.
Yes.
Interpersonal conflicts between a direct report and their manager is what is one of the greatest contributors to people leaving a job. And so what talent optimization does also, it helps to build managers. If you have managers on your team, people who they show up and they have impact on the strong players, the champions, who are, bringing out that strategy, whatever it is, who are activating that on the ground. Sometimes the managers that you have supervising these individuals are the ones who are causing the most problems. And so part of what talent optimization does as well is that it can help you as an employer to inspire that person to the point where they no longer want to work for you because they don't feel like they fit into the culture. It does that too, because sometimes there are some people that you don't need to retain as part of your entity based on the culture. And so talent optimization also does that. It helps you to be able to understand people, to share with them what their strengths, their blind spots are. And once they're able to identify those things, they'll be like, you know what? I don't think that this is the right fit for me. I don't think that this culture fits into the greater, and they decide that, listen, I'm going to move on from this organization. And so
Wow.
you can coach people out as well. Yeah.
Wow.
Exit. You have an exit strategy.
Yes.
Yeah, I like the concept, the
Mhm.
empowering and inspiring them out.
Mhm.
I know that this is time for our Speak Up segment. You're listening to Let's Talk Life and Legacy, a moment with Dr. Grace, where we are discussing the topic how to build high performance team, managing people to perform. And remember, you can click on the subscription bell and click on this and subscribe to our YouTube page. Chauna-Kaye, I know you were in the hot seat this afternoon, so we did not get a chance to see how the persons are commenting. And so at this time, we are going to ask those who are listening to share your comments and have your questions ready.
I see one in
Because,
the chat already, Dr. Grace. Roberta.
okay,
Yeah,
Roberta
she
on
wants to know.
Facebook. Yes.
Welcome, Roberta. Welcome, and we look forward every
Every
week to
week.
see your your questions and comments.
Yes.
We love you. So, Roberta wants to know: is talent optimization about eliminating bad workers, or is it about redesigning roles to match employees' best skills and retraining employees to rise to their best potential? Hence talent optimization. How do you so respond?
This is a very good question. I just mentioned that there are people that you can inspire away from your organization, and so it does tend to weed out the employees that are not good fit, and we don't necessarily call people bad workers. What we say is that they are not behaviorally aligned, or they're not aligned to the role.
Is euphemism you're using?
No, they're not bad workers. There's a fit for them. It's just not in the organization.
Okay, I get it.
Right? And so in some cases, a person may end up not necessarily being removed. Sometimes there are cases where their competencies, based on their specialized training and so on, they are very much what we would consider to be cognitively fit. They have all the other pieces or elements to be able to do the job, but they may require some kind of gap analysis and training in order to be brought up. And so, yes, in terms of the redesigning, it's not necessarily the role itself that you would restructure, but what you would do is that you coach this individual based on their blind spots so that they're able to manage that well as they go into the organization. One of the I can't remember the exact content that I got this from, but there was an expert that said it this way. There are some things about us, and we talk about the back of the t-shirt, front of the t-shirt thing, but there are some things about us, right, that we already know. We don't necessarily need an assessment to tell us. I'll give an example. Dr. Grace, I know I've done your behavioral assessment, and so I can speak openly about some of the things that I've come to know about you. Is that you are a person that prefer to reflect on an idea. No, I'm sorry. You are a person who prefer to speak an idea out before it's even fully baked. So you have an idea, while the idea is being shaped, you will talk about it, and while you're talking about it is when you're putting the legs on it, right?
And I speak about it as if it is happening.
Yes, yes. But then there are others who, from whether it be that they always want to be right, they prefer to wait and reflect a little bit and think about the idea until it's fully baked, when they think they have it all together, before they will make any comments about it, right? In both of those scenarios, we wouldn't say that one is bad or one is right, is good. What we would say is what is needed, right? In some cases, we need you to be able to just throw those ideas out, Dr. Grace, because we're in a brainstorming session and people are probably just, are having mental blocks. And that idea could help the team it could just send off a firestorm in terms of everyone around the team just coming up with some kind of response. And so as a manager or as a team leader, what we try to encourage and ask our leaders to be engaged in is this whole thing that's called a conversational capacity. Build your conversational capacity. And this is where you basically allow people to have balanced candor and curiosity. Allow everyone to speak up, but if they disagree with you, be okay with saying, tell me some more. Tell me more about why you disagree with me. So that's a curious side.
Wow.
Where you are trying to get more out of, what could help you to make a decision that otherwise you would not have had that detractor there, and you would have made the decision not knowing, what are the oppositions to that idea and so on. And so being able to balance all those things is really what, where talent optimization comes in to create a creative tension and allow you to be able to get the best response. As I said, it's a journey towards truth. And as you journey towards truth, there will be some conflict, and we have to be okay with that.
Great.
Yep.
Any more questions?
No, there are no more questions. I'm not seeing any questions here.
I saw somebody that looked like Mr. Arnold Kelly that said something about skills.
Arnold Kelly, yes.
Yes.
And
let's
skills and attitude, okay. And then we have that's DJK. Conflict provides opportunity for dialogue and growth.
Yes.
Speak to that.
Yeah, that's a fact. Dialogue is a good thing because remember we talk about weighing in so we can buy in. Even if a person does not agree with the outcome of a debate, they walk away feeling better about the decision, knowing that they contributed to the discussion and that their thoughts and their opinions were valued as part of this discussion. So even if I don't agree, I will be willing to work with you because at least you heard me out. And that's basically what the dialogue does for you. And that is what stimulates the growth. And wherever that team is going, this will help to strengthen that path.
Wow.
As you talk about talent optimization, I'm going back to what Arnold put up. Talent and skill and attitude. I come to realize that for some persons, even if they do not have the skill that is required at the moment, if they have the right attitude and they are teachable and coachable, they would be better off within your organization than others who have the skill and the competency and the bad attitude. Am I going anywhere with that?
No, that's an excellent point. I've been able to tell clients that there is a hire that they're considering that we don't think would serve the purpose. And why do I say that? You can tell based on a person's behavioral assessment result whether or not this person is open to change, if they're flexible, if they are amenable. Those are some of the things that you can tell based on a behavioral assessment. And so in some cases, you want to be able to identify, is this something that I'm willing to put up with as an employer? Do I have the energy and the time to invest in this? In order, based on the other factors. You remember I talk about the brain, the heart, and the briefcase. Will the briefcase is the briefcase carrying that much weight that I'm willing to sacrifice that part of who this person is and what they bring to the team in order to make it work? And so that's another important piece. Skills and attitude. The truth is, I think some recent research, and Dr. Belly can back me up on this, data coming out is showing that when you compare IQ versus EQ, a lot of the top leaders and presidents, people who have advanced to leadership roles, have scored higher on their emotional intelligence, far more than they would have scored on their intelligence quotient. And this is because of the very same factor. How does this person relate to failure? If they've encountered failure, do they have the grit and the resilience to overcome these situations? All of those factors are important.
I totally agree with you. My example is a very minute example of the other day I had a piece of furniture to assembly. And so I hired a guy who was to come in to do it. I mean, within a few, well, I would say within a half an hour, the complete furniture and what I had was assembled, but in quick time. So his skills were really on par, but his attitude made me say to myself, he could never come back and assemble anything for me, even though his skills were so up there, because he had such a bad attitude, his willingness, his the way he spoke, all of that was a full turn off. So if we could equate that to what you were just saying, I would say that emotional intelligence and IQ, if you're able to regulate yourself emotionally and act emotionally intelligent, persons will put up with that, even though you may lack the competency in all the areas, where they would be willing to train a person like that, rather than one who has the high level of intelligence and the skills. I believe they would lean towards wanting to work with someone who is more emotionally intelligent and have the attitude of willingness to learn and to be able to optimize their own potential.
And that comes back to the same thing that I talked about in terms of behavioral accountability, because a lot of employers do that. They sacrifice the team culture. They sacrifice the strategy that the team is pursuing for the sake of keeping an employee that they claim is doing their work. One of the things that we talk about is, do you want a smart organization or do you want a healthy organization? And the truth is, they're not mutually exclusive. You should pursue both. A smart organization is all about the metrics and the data and the performance and achieving those goals and objectives. But then there is also what you call the healthy organization, which says that here we are respectful, here we are kind, and you embrace those values that everyone feels valued. We are inclusive. All of these things are factors that we have to consider when it comes down to the overall team experience that one will have when they come to your organization to work. And as I said, people are not disposable plates. You have to lead them and manage them according to how they want to be managed and not how you feel that they should be managed.
I know soft skills are very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
As you made mention, those soft skills are important and should really be coexisting with the skills and competencies that the person bring to the table.
Yeah. And
We should.
sometimes leaders do this thing where they say, "Oh, he's an adult. I'm going to leave them. I'm not going to tell him what to do, or that's not none of my business. He's producing his work and so on." But what you don't know is that that person might be a bully in the office. That person may be running away people from your organization, chasing them away because you have good competent people who just cannot seem to work or get along with these kinds of managers and so on. So that's something that leaders have to pay attention to and hold individuals behaviorally accountable for their behaviors and actions.
Hold themselves accountable too,
Yes.
because you're never too old to lead and to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And learning and leading go hand in hand. And I
And
go back to this thing.
Dr. Kelly, I am interested in hearing what our viewers have to say in terms of their experience in the workplace.
Yes.
Could we get some feedback in terms of their experience in the workplace? Any comments? Anything having to do with, what is it that you are experiencing as you navigate your workspace?
Yeah. I would love to see some of those feedback coming in. I see that we
Yeah,
have quite a bit of people who are on here live too.
right.
While we wait on them, we eagerly wait on your comments. I think what might be happening there. So Engels, that's what you'd say with what's happening. And so there, yeah. One of the things I really value about people and their ability to lead from within,
Hmm.
that when you
Come
do,
back to that, right?
I have to because it's that space where you have what you call a sense of soul peace.
Mm-hmm.
You have peace within your soul, so no matter what turbulence is happening around you, you can manage yourself. You know what your purpose is. You know what you are bringing to an organization, and you make a intelligent and informed decision to just be yourself. And as I said earlier, authenticity is the currency they are saying of today's society. Um, integrity and all of that, they're very, very, very important. But you can't have an integrity if you are not authentic. Who
Mm-mm.
are you and why are you functioning? What are you bringing? What value are you taking? And if you find that you're not being optimized, some persons, I wouldn't want to go in certain places, no, but some persons, they will spend all their time pushing and tugging and pushing and tugging to build an organization. But what we need to understand is that self-development and self-empowerment is the
Yes.
only thing that will not be
Mm-hmm.
extinct.
Yeah, that's true. And
Well
it's
said.
funny because when I first did my behavioral assessment, John Maxwell has this thing that he says that if you don't know yourself, you can't grow yourself, right?
Wow.
And I
He's
think,
powerful.
yeah, everything begins with awareness, self-awareness. And I believe that everyone should give themselves that gift, at least that you owe it to yourself to give yourself the gift of awareness. The behavioral assessment tool that we have comes with this personal development chart. And on the personal development chart, Dr. Bell, you're able to see what are your strengths? What are some of the things that people will love about you, or, on the job, those will serve you well. And you're able to also see what are some of your blind spots, your potential blind spots or potential weaknesses that you have. For instance, one of my blind spots is that rather than motivating, I may be intimidating. So in getting my message across, it gives me one self-coaching tip. And the up before think before you speak, right? Think, how will your message be received? How will the person listening to your message receive that message? Are they going to feel like, oh, she's just being a show off? Or are they going to feel that, wow, I just feel inspired to be like her or to do what she's doing? And so I think that that's one of the areas where the talent optimization tool that we offer at Pottingers and Associates Consulting can help your organization. Think about that manager who is just doing a very poor job, thinking that being negative to an employee, not commending them on a job well done, just being hard and fast and bottom lining when it comes on to producing results. Think about what a tool like that could do for that manager if they understand that, listen, if you want to get the best out of Dr. Bell, you need to listen more. You need to give her time to process her ideas so that, if you call upon her just suddenly in a meeting and she shies away from it or say, I'm not prepared to give a response, be okay with that. Give her the time that she needs in order to produce the very best work. And when she comes and present, I guarantee you that she's going to crush the goals that you set out for her. And so that leadership from within, Dr. Grace, I'm with you on that. And I do believe that talent optimization also has some answers for that as well.
I appreciate it. Since I've done my assessment with you, there are a lot of things I've learned about me. And one of the things, the things that I am supporting is something I think Les says. Never let what you want to say get in the way of what the people want to hear.
That's powerful.
Words of wisdom. Say that again, Doc.
Never let what you want to say get in the way of what the people want to hear. And one of the things I like about this talent optimization process is that it also helps with succession planning. Right, Chauna?
Yes, it does.
It does. And it helps us to take a more systematic approach to leadership. That has always been part of how I operate, but I'm learning the value of it. And if I never understood it before, I look at somebody like Miles Monroe. How long has Miles Monroe been dead? But is he really?
Yeah.
Don't misinterpret what I'm saying.
No, man, I know that you can get this bandit from the church.
Organization that outlast him, and we are talking about
legacy.
Let's talk life and legacy. What are you leaving behind in the organization that you are serving? When you leave, how better is the organization for you having been there?
Yes.
Even if you were inspired out of it, you should have been able to leave a mark. That man's ministry has grown leaps and bounds, and every day, everywhere you turn, you hear him.
Yes.
Even though he is dead. God has given us the gift of so many things. Each of us, we have our unique gift. And it is said that his gift, help me with this one. What we are is God's gift to us when we were born. What we become is our gift to him. How accountable are we for the talent and the gift? You talk about talent optimization. How accountable are we to God and to others for the talent that God has given us? How are we optimizing it so that we are empowering others and we are making a difference and making a mark in society so that our legacy will outlast us? I want us to think about that seriously. We have been waiting on your comments and your questions. We realize that you are being poured into this afternoon so much, and we would love to hear from even your overflow. But you seem to be shy. But if you are watching this live or you are watching the replay, our value added product this afternoon comes from Pottinger and Associate that will give you an opportunity to leave a legacy that will outlast.
Is that David? David is saying, lovely presentation, very informative.
Yes.
And I must say, ditto, ditto, ditto. And I really thoroughly enjoyed just sitting at your feet and listening and learning about organizational structure and people optimization. I tell you, I really, even coming from an HR background, I felt like I was taken into the 22nd century. Because I think I know some things, but I tell you, your take on just explaining. For example, I know Dr. Kelly is going to ask me in a few seconds, but all right, let
it's just about that time now.
So I can go. But I really enjoyed listening to you talking about, for example, in hiring, that because I never looked at it this way, Chauna-Kaye, where in hiring we look at the head, the heart, and the briefcase. Just explaining it that way was just so potent. I just last week Friday evening I was in a conversation with a group of people, and one of the things that came out, I don't even remember how the conversation started, but one of the person was saying he would never hire a PhD person for a particular job that he had. And so it just underscored, I sat there, they didn't know my background or anything, but and I sat there and I was listening and learning, and just listening to you now, what I picked up from that is that what is the briefcase that they were really looking at, more professional experience, and not the heart or the head of the person. Say that I would not employ a PhD because that person may be overqualified. But what about the person's head and heart in this situation? And I really, I'm going to actually be starting this conversation.
Yes.
In terms of talking in that manner, in terms of how we optimize people's potential in this hiring process. I also love the whole concept that you came up with about the back of the t-shirt, because we're really not looking at the whole person and what that speaks to. And I love the fact that Dr. Kelly keeps saying leading from within, and that's powerful.
Yeah.
So we've had a wonderful evening, and I am sure listeners, you would attest to that. Just put yes, yes, or a thumbs up or something in the chat so we know that you have been reached, because for us, it's a conversation that we're having with you, for you, so that you could be empowered and that you could leap into the state of mind that will take you to places that you need to be for yourself, but not by yourself. And so we are here to serve you. We thank our guest, Mrs. Chauna-Kaye Pottinger. How does it feel to have been in that seat this afternoon?
It's new. It's new, and I don't really like it. But guess what? I'll work with it for now. I like
I
to.
must
You,
I
say,
like to. I
I
like to
must say
bring
you,
from
but
the fountain of knowledge that you ladies have to offer. But
oh,
the
the
message.
tables were turned today, and I'm telling you, I
you did well.
felt really very, very honored to have learned so much in terms of organizational structure,
Mhm.
optimizing people, understanding how to engage them in the whole work process,
Yeah.
and just making sure we have the best fit
Mhm.
Mhm.
and retaining the best of the best.
Yes.
That's
I
right.
feel as if I was back in school. I really appreciate the conversation, and I have already taken action. For those of you who are listening in, the talent optimization process, get your assessment done. And Shauna, how can they access that assessment through the Pottinger and Associates organization, and what do you have? What special gifts do you have for them this evening?
Yes. So the first three people that actually type the word talent optimization, just put a hashtag talent optimization in the comment section of this post or this live, will be treated to a free behavioral assessment along with a readback. And I tell you something, Dr. Grace, I'm sure you can attest to this because it was certainly a aha moment for you.
Oh
But
yeah.
that is something that you want to give yourself a gift, the gift of awareness and self discovery. So if you put the word, the hashtag talent optimization in the comment section, then we will go ahead, we'll administer that behavioral assessment. And after that, we'll take you on a journey of self discovery. And listen, it's wide open from there. You will have opportunity to soar, to fly, whatever you need to do after that. We're not going to coach you out of your job, but we will tell you whether or not you're happy where you are. We can tell you that, whether you're frustrated, in the frustrated zone, or you're pretty comfortable where you are. So go ahead and type that in the chat and I will reach out to you directly.
Do
And
they
if
have
they
to
are
put like a email in?
Once they're on there, I think I should be able to go ahead and DM them. So that should be fine. If one, just put it in the
Okay.
chat and we'll be able to reach out to you. Or you
Okay.
go to the website that's on the screen, pottingerassociates.com. And from there, you can just navigate to the right side of the screen and we'll just reach out to you individually after that as well.
okay, thank you so very much. I am overwhelmed, I'm empowered, I'm inspired, and I'm exceedingly proud. Not because you're my co-host, but because you're somebody else to me. I am so proud, and thank you, listeners, those of you who are always so faithful to share these light moments with us. Remember, your attitude really determines your altitude, and remember that you have greatness within you,
Yes.
and you can become anything you want to be.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
shoot or beyond the stars, so that if you were to fall, you'll fall in the stars, and you'll
Mhm.
still be able to shine as bright as God would intend for you. Do well. Enjoy this moment. And I say to you, what? This is Let's Talk Life and Legacy, a moment with Dr. Grace. And this is how we end this evening show by saying,
Ta-ta!
ta-ta.
Bye bye.